With Iran's top leadership now dead, killed in Operation Epic Fury, the world waits to see the Iranian people rise up and seize control of their government. Unverified reports indicate protesters and anti-regime crowds have seized control of some Iranian cities. Well, here to share his thoughts is dissident project speaker Shay Khatiri. Shay fled Iran in 2024. He serves as vice president and senior fellow at the Yorktown Institute. Shay, President Trump called on Iranians to rise up and reclaim their country. Can you verify that is happening in some cities right now? And how can anti-regime forces seize control when the IRGC and police maintain control and possess all the guns?
First, the president has said that Iranians should do that after military operations are concluded. However, he has also said that Iranians should, in the meantime, stay at home and be safe. Opposition leader Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has also said that they should stay at home for the time being until he gives a call for a return to the streets to protest. As for your question about how to do that when everybody has the guns, the answer is that look at the targets for the past 24 hours. The United States is taking care of Iran's strategic stockpile production sites and other military sites. Israelis are doing the same, but also Israelis are attacking heavily Iran's suppression apparatus, the secret police, law enforcement, cops, police stations, the besieged centers, courts. We are severely attacking Iran's command and control and communication centers, which are used to crack down on protests. And with these targets, after our operation is done, Iranians would have a much easier time to stay on the street and continue the protests to take over government buildings, and the government will have a severely degraded capacity to crack down on the protesters after we are done.
Just how organized and united, how strong do you think the Iranians are who are fighting for freedom and regime change? Will they be strong when the time is right?
Iranians are united, but not terribly organized. This remains a problem because, Iran is a totalitarian regime and has prevented any organization. Nonetheless, there are two things that should give us hope. Three things, actually. One, there is a leadership in the diaspora in the person of former Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, and he was not overwhelmingly popular in the past. He has become extremely popular in recent years, and everybody's been chanting his name. Everybody's been looking for him to direction. So when he says something publicly, it becomes immediately available through satellite TV and internet to Iranian people, and they will do what he says. Second, Mr. Pahlavi has a defection campaign. He has had about 100,000 applicants within the system to help. Now, some of these are false applications by the regime to clog the system, and his organization is verifying these claims. But let's say there are a few dozen senior commanders in the security forces who are legitimately defecting to him, pledging loyalty to him. That will be a tremendous game changer. And third, there are underground cells that he has organized within Iran that could lead the crowds in certain directions. These are not perfect. This is not to say that it's a perfectly organized campaign, but there is enough to lead to a positive change inside Iran.
Well, who's running the country right now? Because Khamenei and all the top leaders, security, defense, intelligence, they're all dead.
Constitutionally, there is an interim leadership council consisting of a senior cleric, the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, and Chief Justice Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei. The senior cleric I mentioned, Mr. Arafi, who might become the constitutional successor to Khamenei. I had a profile of him on the Middle East Forum. If anybody is interested, they can go and learn about him, as I wrote. These three people are, by constitution, running the country. In practice, it is been reported that Ali Larijani, a former, a confidant of the late Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, is giving the orders and is in charge and making the calls. That is possible too. It is much likelier that there is a compromise among the senior leadership, that they convene and make decisions collectively. And third, we have disrupted Iran's communication, command and communication centers, not just for law enforcement and for cracking down on protests, but also militarily. Much likelier is that this is a chicken without a head, and unit commanders are not receiving instructions, which the Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has confirmed. They're not receiving any strategic instructions and are just taking the initiative, shooting at whatever they think is a good idea. But likely, there is no strategy behind what Iran is doing. They're just throwing everything at the wall right now because there is no command coming down through the chain.
And I'm sure they're targets, too. So I want to ask you about Christianity, because I know it's spread faster in Iran than in any other part of the world. What can you tell us about the risks for Christians right now in Iran? Is it more dangerous for them now, or are they better off now that the Ayatollah is dead?
So I wrote for the Providence magazine, I believe in 2021 or 2022, that two things in Iran were happening. One, Islam was the fastest shrinking religion in Iran. Less than a third of Iranians today identify as Shiite Muslims. Two, Christianity was the fastest growing religion in Iran, especially underground evangelical churches. At the time, the highest estimate was that up to 3 million converts live in Iran, in convening in underground churches, which just, you cannot admire the courage of these people enough. They have been to some extent cracked down on, but not severely in the past, because the regime really doesn't know where to begin on the crackdown right now. Do you go after Christians, or do you go after people who are security liability like Mossad agents, or do you go after people who are atheists blaspheming against the regime? Everybody's some sort of dissident, to a point that the regime just has not had the capacity to go after them. Having said this, the new guy, Arafi, who, again, I have profiled him for the Middle East Forum, he has had a particular interest in Christianity, which he calls a rival and a competition to Islam, and he has expressed worries about Christian converts and underground churches more than your average cleric. So I would assume that if he becomes the supreme leader, and if he's the one making the calls in the future, if the regime, God forbid, survive, he will take a special interest in Christian converts in a negative way to begin cracking down on them. If you're a Christian, you should be very excited that finally I can come on the ground, go to church if the regime falls. But if the regime survives, and if Arafi, the interim member of the interim council, becomes the supreme leader, that would be very worrisome.
Well, maybe he's targeted too, and he won't last. So what are your expectations on what will happen next, and a surrender of the remnants of this regime?
It is impossible to predict what's going to come next. I can give you 3 scenarios, and one scenario is that the regime actually survives in its current or some modified form, and possibly would strategically retreat for a while and just become much more cruel at home against the Iranian citizens. That is one. Another one is that we degrade Iran's armed forces so much so that they cannot hold on to power, and many of them would defect to the people, and you could have a civil war like in Libya and Syria, and that would be possibly the worst outcome, not just for the Iranian people, but for our interest in the region, because imagine how disruptive the Syrian civil war was. And Iran is a country with almost 4 times the population of Syria at the time. And 90 million people entering a civil war would be catastrophic. And you could have a scenario that Iran is dismembered with some portion of the territory held by remnants of the regime, and even asking for foreign militaries like Russia or China or whoever to enter to help them. Turkey occupying parts of Iran, and Israel, all the Arab states, all of them fighting for their interests inside Iran and against each other. Many of them might be fighting against each other while they're all our partners. And in case of Turkey, a treaty ally. That is a nightmare scenario. And a third scenario is that there is actually an orderly transition, that the armed forces would surrender to either American forces or opposition leader Reza Pahlavi, or in any other way to be an orderly transition, or maybe someone within the regime would rise and, like in Venezuela, get rid of the leadership, declare himself or herself, himself probably in Iran, the leader, and start working against us, hopefully toward an orderly transition. All of these are on the table. None of them could be, we cannot be certain of any of them.
Yeah,
but
none of it's going to happen quickly, is it? I mean, it's a long process. We're praying that it won't result in civil war or a broader conflict. There's a lot of political pressure on President Trump to end it quickly. What would ending it prematurely mean for the people of Iran?
We Americans have a history of ending wars prematurely. We did it in Desert Storm. We prematurely called a mission accomplished in the second Iraq war. We have done this before. I would not be surprised if we do it again. I hope that we don't, because, as I said, ending it prematurely could result to either the regime staying in power or disintegrating into a civil war. And neither would be good, because if the regime stays in power, it will begin to take revenge and on the Iranian people for not coming to its defense. You see right now people are being arrested anecdotally. These are anecdotal reports, but people are being arrested for celebrating Khamenei's death. And the regime will take revenge on the people, like the Saddam Hussein regime took revenge on its own people immediately after Desert Storm, with tens of thousands killed. That is possible. And again, if the regime cannot hold onto its own, disintegration is possible. So those are both, I wouldn't even say possible, they are quite likely outcomes.
Okay, our prayers are with our servicemen and women, Israel, and the Iranian people at this time. Shay Khatiri, thank you for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and you can find my work currently on the issue at the Middle East Forum.